stop for a moment and look at your hands. Soft palms, clean nails, fingers that know the weight of a phone, the click of a mouse, the warmth of a coffee cup. These are the hands of someone who has never gone to sleep, wondering if they will eat tomorrow. And yet, for roughly 95% of the time that anatomically modern humans have existed, every single one of your ancestors woke each morning into a world with no shops, no doctors, no walls, and no guarantees. They survived. You exist because of them. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Drop yourself into their world exactly as you are right now, and you would almost certainly be dead before the sun set twice. Not because you are weak, because you have forgotten almost everything a human being was once required to know. This is not a story about how primitive they were. It is a story about how astonishingly capable they were, and how much of that capability we have quietly traded away. Because the hunter-gatherer is not some distant, hairy stranger in the fog of prehistory. The hunter-gatherer is the default human, the factory worker, the office clerk, the scrolling commuter. These are the experiment. These are the strange new things. You are the descendant of 100,000 generations of forages, and your body, your cravings, your fears, even the way you sleep, were all built for a world you would no longer recognize. To understand why you wouldn't last a day out there is to understand who you actually are beneath the comfort. So let us begin with what the evidence actually shows, because the reality is far stranger and more humbling than the cartoon of the brutish caveman. Consider the Hadza, a community of hunter-gatherers living around Lake Eyasi in northern Tanzania. They are not relics or living fossils. They are modern people living a foraging life, and for decades they have allowed scientists to study how a human body works when it is doing what it evolved to do. The anthropologist Frank Marlowe spent years among them, documenting a way of life in which food is found, never stored, and shared almost the moment it arrives. And when the evolutionary biologist Herman Pontzer measured their daily energy expenditure, publishing his findings in the journal PLOS ONE in 2012, he discovered something that overturned a comfortable assumption. The Hadza, despite walking many kilometers a day, digging tubers, and chasing game, burned almost the same number of calories each day as a sedentary office worker in Europe or America. The body, it turns out, adapts and budgets its energy with ruthless efficiency. The lesson is brutal in its simplicity. Their hard life was the normal baseline of human existence, and our easy one is the deviation. They were not burning extra fuel to survive. They were simply surviving, all day, every day, with no slack and no safety net. Now think about what that survival actually required. A Hadza woman might walk 5 or 6 kilometers in a day. A man might cover 11 or more, often in punishing heat, trekking, gathering, and carrying. But distance is the least of it. The real work is knowledge. To eat, you must know which of the hundreds of surrounding plants will nourish you and which will stop your heart. You must read the soil to know where a tuber hides a meter underground. You must follow the honey-guide bird, a creature that genuinely leads humans to bee colonies, a partnership documented by the ecologist Claire Spottiswoode in the journal Science in 2016, one of the only known examples of cooperation between wild animals and people. You would not know to listen for that bird. You would not know the call to answer it with. You would walk straight past a feast and starve in the middle of plenty. And then there is the hunt, which is perhaps where our modern fantasies collapse most completely. We imagine spears and brute strength, but long before sophisticated weapons, our ancestors may have relied on something far more remarkable: their own bodies as instruments of endurance. In 2004, the biologists Dennis Bramble and Daniel Lieberman published a landmark paper in Nature titled "Endurance Running and the Evolution of Homo." They argued that the human body is exquisitely engineered for long-distance running. our springy Achilles tendons, our ability to sweat across nearly our entire skin rather than panting, our upright frame that lets us breathe freely while moving, our large gluteal muscles that stabilize each ride. We are, they suggested, built to run prey to death. In persistence, hunting, still witnessed among some Kalahari sand hunters, a person simply follows an antelope through the hottest part of the day, never letting it rest until the animal collapses from overheating. The hunter does not outrun the prey in a sprint. The hunter outlasts it across hours, using patience, tracking, and a body that refuses to overheat. Could you do that? Could you read a single hoofprint in dust and know the animal was tiring and follow it for 4 hours under a sun that wants to kill you with no water bottle and no map home? Almost none of us could. Close your eyes now and stand inside one of their nights. The fire is the center of everything. It crackles and spits, throwing orange light against the faces gathered close. And beyond that ring of warmth, the darkness is total and alive. The grass hisses in the wind. Somewhere out in the black, something large shifts its weight, and every adult goes quiet for half a breath, listening before the talk resumes. You smell wood smoke and roasting tuber and the dry animal scent of the land cooling after the heat of the day. There is no clock. The stars wheel overhead in their thousands, undimed by any electric light, and they are not decoration. They are a calendar and a map. The oldones know which constellation rising means the rains are near, which means the game will move. The children fall asleep against their mothers as the elders speak, and in their words, passed mouth to ear across generations, is the entire library of survival, where the water is in the dry season, which rots to dig when the berries fail, what to do when a child burns with fever, how to find your way home across 100 featureless kilometers. There are no books. There is only memory and the fire and the voice of someone who knows. Lose that voice and you lose everything. And here is the twist, the part that should change how you see your own soft, comfortable life. That fire was not just for warmth or safety. According to the primatologist Richard Wrangham in his work, Catching Fire, the control of fire and the invention of cooking may have literally built the human brain. Cooking unlocks calories that raw food kept sealed away. It pre-digests our meals before they reach our stomachs. With more available energy, our ancestors could afford to grow a smaller gut and a larger, hungrier brain, an organ that even now consumes around 1/5 of all the energy you burn while doing nothing at all. The dependence that would kill you out there, your need for cooked, processed, calorie-dense food, is the very thing that made your mind possible. You cannot eat the way a chimpanzee eats. Your body forgot how. You are, in the most literal sense, an animal domesticated by fire. And it goes deeper still. We imagine our ancestors as exhausted, sleeping the moment darkness fell, desperate for rest. But when the sleep scientist Jerome Siegel and his colleagues at UCLA studied sleep among the Hadza, the San, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, publishing in Current Biology in 2015, they found something that quietly demolishes our excuses. These forages, living without electric light, slept on average only 6.5 hours a night, no more than the stressed modern office worker, and arguably with far less insomnia. The natural human did not sleep more. They simply lived in rhythm with the cold edge of dawn and the failing temperature of night. Even our sense that we are deprived, that we deserve more rest, is a story we tell ourselves inside a comfort our ancestors never imagined. So why does any of this matter, here, now, to you? Because the body reading these words is still that body. The anthropologist Kristen Hawkes gave us the grandmother hypothesis, the idea that humans live long past the age of reproduction, unlike almost any other animal, because grandmothers gathering food for their grandchildren gave those children a survival advantage. Your long life, Your capacity to love and care across generations may itself be a gift from foraging women who refuse to stop providing. The cravings that sabotage your diet, the pull toward sugar and fat, were once perfect instincts for finding rare honey and precious calories in a world of scarcity. The anxiety that grips you in a quiet room was once the vigilance that kept your ancestor alive when something moved in the grass. You are not broken. You are a Stone Age survivor, running ancient software in a world it was never written for. The mismatch is not a flaw in you. It is the echo of where you came from. You would not last a day out there, not because you are lesser, but because you have been fed from the very knowledge that defined a human being for 95,000 generations. You traded the constellations for a ceiling, the honey guide's call for a notification, the elder's voice for a search engine. It was, in almost every measurable way, a magnificent trade. You will likely live longer, suffer less, and bury fewer children than any forager who ever lived. But something went quiet in the trade. Look at your soft hands again. They are the hands of someone who has been given an extraordinary gift, a life without the daily terror of the hunt, the famine, the dark. And they are the hands of someone who has forgotten the fire, the stars as a map, the patient art of following a single footprint until the world gives up its meaning. Your ancestors looked up at the same stars you can barely see now, and they were not lost beneath them. They were home. You carry their bodies, their hungers, their fears, and their astonishing resilience inside you still. You would not last a day in their world, but every day you live in yours is a day they made possible. The least you can do is look up and remember Theons who never stopped looking.